Welcome back to Words of Wokism number 25. Today's word is harm. You probably hear this all the time from woke teachers and woke administrators and woke politicians about preventing harm from coming to students, from coming to even the teachers or communities, etc. And you've probably been confused because you've heard this word used in contexts where you can't imagine how a person would have been harmed. So what you need to understand is the bar for the definition of harm has been lowered to the point where it actually no longer exists. There's no bar anymore if the person is woke. If the woke person is doing something to anyone in their way, anybody who wants to say, no, hang on a second, I don't agree with you, I don't want to do that thing, I don't want you to do that thing to my child, for my child, or just in general, to me. And you can even cite evidence that the thing they want to do is objectively harmful. Case in point, giving puberty blockers to minor children who cannot consent. Never mind whether they have parental consent or not. Okay, just that it's a harmful kind of drug to give to a child, a prepubescent child. The puberty blockers essentially have no purpose. Now, adults who want to transition and take hormones and go through that, they're adults. We can have a whole separate conversation on the degree to which those kinds of treatments might be harmful, but that's a decision for adults to make. But those who want to give them to children, we might say, are objectively seeking to harm them. In the whole Hippocratic Oath, do no harm thing, they're taking perfectly healthy bodies that might have some not so healthy minds at the moment. And rather than dealing with the not so healthy minds, they are doing physical harm to the healthy bodies. That is measurable. That's objective. We can see it. They can deny it all day long, but all the research is there. These things, these drugs are not meant, Lupron is not meant for a prepubescent child. It causes damage to the body. But if you say don't do that, you're accused of harming the child by denying them the opportunity to be harmed. So the bar for them is super high. Maiming people, chemically altering them permanently and sterilizing them, psychologically traumatizing them with all manner of messages about the world's gonna end in however many years from climate change, or if they don't transition, they're gonna kill themselves, or bad things are gonna happen, or parents don't really love you if they won't let you. And I mean, that's okay. Those kinds of things no longer qualify as harm or abuse or any of that. But saying don't do that, that's harmful. So it's just an inversion. It's an inversion. That's what harm is. When you hear someone woke saying you're going to harm someone, what you should hear is you are trying to prevent me from harming someone. I don't mean to laugh. I mean, it's not funny. This is that kind of laughter that comes when you're just so horrified you don't even know what to do anymore, so you laugh because it's so perfectly ridiculous. It's kind of like watching a horror film where the person runs past all the implements they could use to defend themselves and runs into a dead end. Doesn't take any weapons, runs into a dead end, like every Scream movie you've ever seen. Or parody movie, not Scream, like the parody ones. Anyway, getting off on a tangent here. So that's harm. They use the word, it means you're trying to stop me from from doing actual harm, and you're doing harm. The other things they will now classify as harmful are words. And the reason that's so very dangerous is when you tell a child that words equal harm, that words can harm you in and of themselves. words spoken or words contained in someone else's computer on social media that they can either choose to look at or not, words contained in books, words, things one has a choice to look at or not look at. Their mere existence. That's the same as saying ideas all by themselves are harmful. That is very dangerous, because what that then does is tell the child they are in danger when people say things they disagree with. They will have a fear response. They will have a fight or flight response. They may even get violent and think they have to defend themselves against slights, insults, stupid jokes, etc. Lash out, and next thing you know, there is actual violence, actual harm being done to someone or to them because they had a fear-based response to word-based harm. Now, to those who might say, but Deb, there are ideas that are quite harmful, like the idea that someone is born an oppressor or born oppressed. I agree with you. But the idea all by itself, just spoken one time, like, hey, people are oppressed who are this and people are not oppressed, that in of itself is neutral. I mean, it's bad. It's a bad idea. It's what you do with it and how you discuss it. So imagine expressing that same idea as a hypothetical in a classroom with students who are middle school age or above. And you put it to them like, imagine someone told you that, ... What would you say? And you opened it up to a discussion and you said, do you think that is possible? Do you think it's true that people are just born oppressive or born oppressed? And let them debate it, let them discuss it, but force them to use logic and reason and give evidence to support their claims. The idea in and of itself doesn't do anything. It's not harmful. It might actually be beneficial, because in that context, having that conversation, you could be inoculating the child or the children against that idea being used to manipulate them into believing that it's true. So any idea could be used to inoculate people against itself. We can teach Marxism as a way to inoculate people against Marxism. Same with Nazism, Maoism, that we should not refrain from teaching these ideas. We just need to do it in such a way that opens up the floor to discussion and debate, and without an agenda other than sticking to the facts and evidence and using rational, reasonable arguments. And we should not be afraid, because the great thing about bad ideas is they don't hold up to scrutiny in this way. So no, an idea in and of itself is not harmful. The exception, of course, would be material that is pornographic in nature, given to young children. I would say minor children, really. Emotionally immature children, given to them in such a way that indicates it's good, it's healthy, they should consume it, and or it's foisted upon them. It's not just kind of sitting on a shelf. And while I don't want it to be in the school library, and I don't want it to be in the children's section of the public library, the fact that it might be, or it's just sitting there, shouldn't terrify parents. Like, if it's there and you can't get them to remove it, you need to sit down and have a conversation with your children and do your level best to explain to them why it's harmful to them to look at it. Prep them, prepare them, explain, and so forth, and you can head off a fair amount of damage. But in and of itself is not harmful. It's what gets done with it, just like those ideas. It's that the teachers are pushing it on the kids as good. It's that they're saying you should want to do this, when we know that biologically these kids are sort of hardwired to not want that. And so one of two things will kick in. Either they'll become very, very afraid of sexuality and sexual interactions, and that may be fueling the I'm non-binary, I'm asexual craze, or they become obsessed with it. Like, they get fascinated and fixated on it in an unhealthy way. But it's pretty rare. I'm not saying it's non-existent, but it's pretty rare that a kid's going to look at material that is age inappropriate, it's sexually explicit, pornographic, when they are not mature enough to handle it and put it into context and say like, whatever. That's rare. I mean, it happens, but generally because parents have taken the time to educate their children, talk to their children, explain why it's a big nothing burger and stupid and bad and exploitative and all that type of stuff. But just the existence of porn out in the world, and maybe even sitting on a shelf in and of itself is not the bad thing. It's that the teachers and the schools are teaching it as though it's good. It's the way the ideas are presented that is harmful. And as I said before, when you get in their way and you say, don't do that, don't present the porn like it's good, stop trying to legitimize it, stop trying to normalize it, stop trying to normalize all kinds of, aberrant behavior to very young children, stop trying to get them to drop their personal boundaries to make this okay, stop trying to normalize pedophilia and other kinds of weird behaviors. And they say you're doing harm, that's your red flag that they are looking to do harm and you're in their way. That's literally what it means. Absolutely. So they're inverting it to put you off because no one wants to think I'm harming anyone. And the cognitive dissonance is so profound. There you are in the act of trying to prevent harm. And someone tells you that you are harming. And you have to stop because your brain is all organized to not do harm. They say you are doing harm and you're like, wait, what? And that hesitation gives them all the room they need to move with their propaganda and their lies and their fake data and all their junk. And that is why they use harm. It's a weapon. They've weaponized your protective instinct, your desire to prevent harm from coming to children. And they've weaponized it against you. So you absolutely must stay grounded in logic, reason, and facts. Everything you know in your heart, in your soul, in your gut, as a human being, as a human adult who is not a deviant, that no decent person, no person who didn't want to do some kind of harm, to exploit, to manipulate, to use, to get validation from, or, emotional fuel from, to parasite emotionally from a child. No one normal and healthy would want to socially or medically transition a child, prepubescent child. No one would want to expose them to porn on purpose, would want to tell them their parents shouldn't be trusted, to solicit secrets from them and keep them from their parents and tell them that they'll be their extra special friend. No one good wants that for your child or any child. No one. And the fact that they will turn around and say, you're creating harm, when you try to stop them, is all the clue you need. They're announcing themselves to you. I'm looking to do harm and you're in my